Hi, everyone, and welcome to February webinar topic number 2. I'm Lillian Gina Quinones, and I'm your high school theater PLC leader. Today, we're talking about digital teaching and learning and producing virtual theater productions. The biggest learning curve with digital teaching and learning has been the adjustment, right? We've had to take what is a highly interactive medium and adjust it to the virtual and hybrid models that we have been living in for the last year. Now, while that has presented some challenges, it has led us to several opportunities. And I think some of those opportunities have been finding activities that lend themselves well to the Zoom world. Some of those activities that I've been able to do, I think, fairly successfully have been the Viola Spolin solo actor warm-ups. Those are really great because students can follow your side coaching or they can learn how to side coach themselves. There are a lot of resources online that are free to help guide students really learn how to warm themselves up as actors and lean into doing some of what they would do with other people, but in a space of their own. Devised solo theater projects are really lovely right now because students are processing so many things. There have been so many changes in the last year that just asking a simple question as a stimulus, like, what's important to you right now, can lead to some really beautiful devised work that they can then perform on their own. Obviously, monologues and duet scenes. Anything that's small, bite-sized, right? Big productions right now, they're overwhelming. They don't always turn out the way that we envision them in our heads. So I find little showcase moments where you can have one student or two students at a time performing are really powerful. And actually a gift of this time because we're conferring and giving feedback to students in these really small situations, right? Where they're able to grow, I think, in a different way than they were able to grow when they were in rooms with large groups of people. Now, don't get me wrong. I want us all back face to face, safely, all learning and doing the thing together. But this has taught me a few things about the power of one-on-one or teacher to two students feedback. Another thing that has been really popular among theater teachers is radio plays. Radio plays have been really fun to produce through Zoom. You can use some graphics to give it a little bit of visual effect. It's really lovely to be able to work their voice acting, their voiceover skills, and teach them how to create sound effects. They can even lean into that techie side and use QLab to play the different sound cues and the music and that kind of thing. So radio plays are a really nice virtual theater opportunity as well. Another great opportunity has been with theater history and play analysis. The Zoom world provides a fairly distraction-free world where one can have a discussion in a different way than when you're sitting in a classroom. So there have been some opportunities there to lean in to analyzing full plays and talking about theater history and looking at the theater canon from some cultural and social perspectives, getting kids to make those connections, especially now where there's so much heightened awareness around social topics. Lastly, while digital teaching and learning has definitely presented some opportunities, it has been a challenge and it has caused us teachers to work more hours than we knew we were capable of working. So I want to remind you also that almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. That's one of my favorite quotes by Anne Lamott. I just wanted to remind you as you're watching this to give yourself permission to take a break, to take a moment and recharge yourselves as you are giving unto your students. And speaking of teachers, here are some Georgia teachers sharing their triumphs, their challenges, their strategies with digital teaching and learning.
Hey everybody, my name is Jade Lambert Smith and I'm the theater director at Tri-Cities High School. One of the things that we've done in the VPA Magnet here is incorporate what we call a participation assessment. That's where students are given a grade based on their participation in class, based on their participation in any performance-based opportunities that we do daily in class. And that's been really helpful. It's helped keep students engaged, give them an opportunity to make sure that they're connecting to the lesson and giving feedback. And they do that in breakout rooms. They do that through performance methods. They do that through things like Flipgrid. So it doesn't necessarily have to be live, but they have to fully be engaged with whatever the teacher requests during that particular class session. And that is a way to make sure that they are locked into the lessons that we're learning. It's not a big thing, but it has been very helpful with understanding who is connecting to the lessons and knowing as well whether or not a student has achieved mastery of the standard.
Hi everyone, it's Leanne Lemaster from North Atlanta High School, where I teach theater fundamentals, technical theater, and advanced drama. And when I think about this year and some of the challenges and the triumphs, I think in particular the experience that I had with my advanced drama students. We wrote an original musical for theater for young audiences entitled Emotion Commotion, and you can check it out on YouTube because the link is still up. Please feel free to enjoy their beautiful work. And the thing that was the most challenging was keeping the students trusting the process, keeping them motivated and participating, and keeping them honest with that quality of video is not going to serve our purposes. You're going to need to reshoot because we need to do what's best for the show.
In an environment that has so many distractions, providing students with choice in terms of how they demonstrate that they've accomplished their learning objectives, what format that assessment takes the form of, and how they can get that assessment to you is critical. Try and anticipate the issues that your students might run into and have a plan for the student who can't record in their house, can't sing or be loud during class time, or has to share a device with other learners in their household. Finally, we should remember that our students have spent their entire academic careers being asked to learn and participate in a way that is very different to the digital environment. If you're teaching in a way that you've never been asked to teach before, they're having to learn in a way that they've never been asked to learn before. We should have compassion for them and for each individual student's unique situation. We always talk about meeting our students where they are, and that's never been more true and perhaps more literal than it is right now.
Hi, my name is Corey Kelly. I'm the director of theater, and somewhere in the background you probably hear my dog Peppa. I was asked to talk about maybe some of the obstacles and opportunities that have presented themselves through this year. There have definitely been a lot of obstacles, and it's really hard to see the opportunities that exist. But that being said, we're teachers and we persist. And so one of the main things that I thought about was the fact that coming into this year, new to the state of Georgia, new to Fulton County, and in a fairly small program, was that I didn't really have much of an option to just kind of throw up my hands and say, we're not doing anything, season canceled. I had to make something happen. So initially my thought was I would do Cole Sturmer's Story of a Horse outside at a barn. That didn't happen, probably for the best, not really a crowd pleaser. So what we did is we took our production of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which was adapted by my dramatic writing class, and we moved it all along the cross-country trails outside. I don't really fancy myself a technical theater person. I have some experience, but once you start trying to put Christmas lights and get theatrical lighting along what's about a 3/4 of a mile trail for an audience to move through, you learn an awful lot about yourself and what you are capable of doing, whether you think that that's your domain or not. But as I said, I really didn't see it as much of a option this year. We were going to do a show.
Thanks everybody, and I know you have survived an incredible year, so hope and joy to all of us for what we do.
Thank you to those teachers for adding their voice to our conversation today. We're going to transition to producing virtual theater productions. And I could talk at length about my triumphs and challenges, but what I will say is that the challenges led to the wonderful things that I'm going to talk to you about. The challenge obviously was I don't have a theater. The way that I know how to tell stories is on a stage, and I was finding myself as a director not having that stage to tell those stories. So what do I do now? And that what do I do now became the journey, and it became the opportunity. And I'm still on that journey. And I think that even after we are all safe enough to go back to a face-to-face school life, I think there's going to be some of this that I take back with me, because I have found that there's a lot of fun and excitement in producing virtual theater. So a couple of things that we want to consider. Are we going to license a show, or are we going to create an original show? And a lot of that is going to have to do with your student community, what kind of cast you have in front of you, and also what your budget looks like. Without having audiences to sell tickets to, it puts us in a situation, doesn't it? So we're having to be creative with our budgets and making things happen and still making them look good. So licensing shows can be an option, but when it's not a deal breaker. Original shows can be really wonderful. Kids are creative. They have a lot to say. I said this earlier about the social and cultural context that we're living in right now. They're heightened. They're super aware. They want to talk. They want to share their ideas. So original pieces are doable. Another thing to consider is your personal bandwidth. So how much can I personally accomplish, and where are my strengths and my own limitations? We chose to, and I say we because I'm a part of a 2-person team. That makes me lucky. We chose, instead of licensing shows, to produce original pieces, because we wanted to leverage some of the little money we had in our budget to partner with local artists. We thought that was a really important thing to do during a time where so much of theater, well, not so much, all of theater is currently shut down. So it became an opportunity for us to give back to our community through our partnerships with local artists. We were also able to secure some grants to be able to do that. In the next few slides, I'm going to talk about how to take this thing that is in your head. You're thinking, okay, I either have my licensed show or my original show in mind, and now I want to get it from my brain onto the screen. How do I do that? I'm going to give you 4 categories of tips. They're not going to be exhaustive because I don't have a ton of time, but I will have some accompanying documents and PowerPoints in the resources that I share along with this on the DOE platform. So make sure you click on that and open and browse through all of that. So I'm going to talk about devices and materials, self-taping techniques, managing submissions, and editing and streaming. The most important thing to know, and hopefully this gives you a deep breath, is you can work with what students have. We do not have to have fancy equipment to create really beautiful shows. iPhones are magical. They have so many capabilities. They're endless. If your student doesn't have an iPhone, no problem. I myself am a Samsung girl, and I get some really high quality videos from my Samsung. They can use iPads, they can use their laptop. There are a lot of ways around it where you can use what students have. You also want to consider supplemental materials. So if, for example, two things, you can either have these in your classroom for lending out like a little supplemental material library, or in our case, we were virtual, so we lent them out to students. We kind of had them drive up. We deliver them like instruments, right? If a student plays a saxophone, they came around and got their saxophone or their violin or their art supplies. These were the supplies that we let our students borrow for their classes last semester and this semester. Mini ring light or a regular 10-inch ring light, backdrops, and tripods. You can either do like a nice gray or dusty blue backdrop, just so that you have a standard color, or you can do green screen backdrops. And they do not have to be fancy. A really lovely workaround for a green screen is a vinyl tablecloth. A green vinyl tablecloth from Party City or the dollar store works really great as a green screen, and then you can use all kinds of really fun virtual backgrounds in your virtual productions. So as long as they have something to record with, you're okay. And then optionally, if you have these supplemental materials, it can help kind of elevate the quality of their videos so that you're able to edit and play around with virtual backgrounds if you'd like. So you've crossed the first thing off of your list. Your students have something to record on, or you have something to record on. Potentially, you might be recording them yourself or have a student recording them at school. You have something to record on, you have a tripod to steady the camera, and you have some supplemental optional materials. But now what? How do you make it look good? I have provided this self-tape guide. The link is right here in the presentation, but it'll also be included in that document I was telling you about. The first thing students must know is that the aspect ratio, which is this kind of size of the frame, doesn't happen automatically. They have to set it. So you want to make sure that your students go into their camera and set their aspect ratio to widescreen, which is also 16:9 if it's horizontal, 16:9. If it's a vertical, it'll say 9:16. You want it to be 16:9. And that their resolution is also set to HD. You can do that very easily by going to your camera settings in your phone. It'll give you options. And the option that you're looking for is the 4K option. It'll say, the newer phones say 4K / 30 FPS. F as in Frank, P as in piano, S as in Sam. 4K and 30 FPS. And that's your HD setting. A lot of phones don't record in that automatically because it does use up a lot of storage. So there are tutorials on YouTube you can find that'll help you. Really, really simple solution to getting a really nice high quality video from a phone. Then in the self-tape guide that I've provided for you, you're going to find some information on framing, shots, angles, lighting, backgrounds, and audio. Audio is really important, and it can be really, really tricky with self-taping. I'm going to browse through it really quickly. I'm not going to go through the whole presentation, but just to kind of show you what types of things you're going to find inside the guide. All right, so self-tape guide, 10 essential tips for high quality videos. You're going to find in here some information about how to frame, always horizontal, never vertical, unless you want to use vertical for some specific thing, some specific artsy reason. I always have them frame horizontally. I teach them about the rule of thirds, where their body should be within the frame, how to use the grid lines on their phone to either center themselves or place their face within one of the intersections of the grids, and headroom. We don't want to waste a lot of space on camera, right? We don't want to waste a lot of space in the frame. So we talk to them about headroom. Then some basic shots. Medium shot for your basic self-tape, close-up shot, or even closer than that sometimes, but your close-up shot for moments that we want it to be a more intimate acting moment. Also talk to them about your full shot for dance submissions and how to shoot outdoors. So kind of talk to them in depth about not just your full shot, but also depth and how to compose your frame, or how to put a person in a frame where there's a world behind them, right? And this is where some of the cinematic techniques come in, because when you have a world behind you as opposed to just a flat wall, it creates more of a 3D effect, and it's just more aesthetically pleasing. So those are some of the things we talk about in shots. Then angles. The big thing here is eye level, eye level, eye level, right? Low angles, no bueno. I say no, no, no to the low angle, especially for dancers. If you're doing a musical theater piece, sometimes they'll want to put their phone on the floor. I really discourage that. Find a way to get that full shot as close to eye level as possible. And whenever you're singing or acting, or we're doing a show that requires a virtual background, when that eye line is going straight to the camera, it's going to make a difference. Or if you're self-taping a scene where your eye line is slightly off the camera, where your typical self-tape, even so, you don't want that low angle to be down there. Then lighting. We talk a lot about lighting, and the most important thing is to keep your face out of the shadows. We want to see your beautiful faces, children, so giving them some tips as to how to make that happen with or without the fancy equipment, right? If they don't have a ring light, which a lot of our students don't, and a lot of us don't have that to give to them, how can we create that for ourselves? Lamps, or using natural light, standing in front of the window, not having a window behind you, things like that. And then working with outdoor lighting. And you'll see from my show sample that I show you later, is we ended up doing several of our things outdoors. And sometimes that's tricky because for some reason, children want to find all the shadows. So as explicit as we can be, the better, right? Then sound, how to make sure that you avoid echoes and white noise, and watching your distance from the camera. We also talk about backgrounds, how to use your backdrop appropriately, and how to make sure your space is clean, or if your in an outdoor scene following specific directions of your director. That is a little preview of the self-tape guide. All right, let's go back to the main presentation here. Now, how do I get what I want? All right, we've done the self-tape guide. They've practiced. They're doing really good with their practice submissions. And now I need to make sure that we have a cohesive look for our show. I've provided some sample filming instructions here for you. I've divided it into shots, location and lighting, costume and makeup. Give explicit and detailed instructions as much as you can, and spend time going through the instructions for each number. So let's say you're doing a 1-hour show, you have 8 musical numbers and 3 scenes. Each one of them is going to require its own set of instructions. So once you rehearse that, my recommendation is to make sure that you carve out time to give the specific instructions for that number, and then have them focus on recording that number. Because you might want several different things so that you can edit together something that's really fun and engaging. So I had them submit 4 different things for this one number: an indoor scene, an outdoor scene, and 2 B-rolls, so that we can have a lot to choose from. File sharing. How are you going to get video files from them to you? Most of our homework submission platforms that we have, they have the option, aside from documents, they have the option for students to transfer files directly through there. Sometimes, however, depending on what platform you're using, it might lower the quality of the video. If you find that that's the case, a really great solution to that, which is free, is called WeTransfer. And it's just WeTransfer.com. You can go to that website, have students go to the website, they upload their work, and it comes directly to your email, and you can download the file in its original format straight to your laptop. So that's a good way to do it. It can get a little bit overwhelming if you have a large group that's doing it. So just kind of a warning on that side. With submissions, make sure you plan ahead for reshoots. And give the kids a heads up. I might not accept your first video that you submit to me, and that's okay, because we're all on a learning journey. We're all on this learning curve together. So you might submit to me a video where half your face is in the dark, and we're going to do it again. Or you might submit to me a video where you forgot to use your green screen in the back, and guess what? I can't put the virtual background on your video if you didn't do it with a green screen. Do it again. Plan for reshoots. Make sure they know that that's a thing, and give yourself time on the back end getting those reshoots submitted. Your students have now submitted all of their footage, and you are ready to edit. Where do you go from here? Well, the first thing to know is that editing software does not have to break your pocket. You can find a lot of free options online. There are also options you can use on your phone, or that students can use on their phones. So search for the free options. I think a lot of them are really lovely and really user-friendly. The other thing is partnering with local filmmakers. They are seeking us out just as much as we need help. Everybody is making that transition to virtual theater, trying to figure out how do we get this theater to make sense on screen. And there are a lot of filmmakers out there who are willing to partner with you to make it happen. The other thing, if partnering with a local filmmaker is not an option, I guarantee that you have curious and tech-savvy students who will get online or get on their iMovie or get on their phone editing apps and make magic. So that's a really great option. And I think depending on your school, I work at an IB school, so I was able to help kids fulfill some of their service learning hours by working on our virtual productions as editors, cinematographers, and assistants, which was a really lovely option. Then, of course, once you edit your video, you render your video, and you have it ready to go, you have to stream it. Streaming can be easy. Maybe easy is not the word. Streaming can be simple, not necessarily easy, but streaming can certainly be free. YouTube and Vimeo are probably your best bets for streaming shows. But I will say to have a lot of patience with your streaming platforms. Uploading videos can take hours. If you have a full production to upload to a streaming platform, you want to make sure that you do it at least the night before your premiere. Take it from somebody who did not do that once upon a time, and my show started about 30 minutes late. So, to avoid that, let me be a cautionary tale, and to avoid that, make sure you've got your video uploaded and processed and ready to go on your streaming platform, and you have previewed it at least one day or 2 or 3 before your public premiere. Give yourself that time. Your future self will thank you. All right, now let's recap. So we've talked about devices and materials, self-taping techniques, managing submissions, editing, and streaming. And here's a sample of what their self-tape videos can look like. These students, you can tell that they used, all of them did happen to have a ring light, so they used ring lights. They used 2 lamps on either side for fill lighting, and I wanted to coordinate the colors so that we had this cohesive look in this frame. So we went with the blue and white backgrounds, and each one of them, or most of them, are looking directly into the camera to sing their song. So this is what it can look like once it's done. Let's take a look at what a scene can look like, not done necessarily in front of a background, but done outdoors. For this particular scene, these students experimented with visual composition. We had talked about depth, we had talked about the rule of thirds, and we talked about, let me pull this down real quick, we talked about the 180-degree rule, and we also made sure to kind of cover how to maintain safe and socially distanced while you're filming. And this is a conversation and song between 2 characters that they created. It's an original scene and with music and lyrics by Ali Ramzier.
Hey, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just need some air. Thank you for inviting me. I needed to get out of the house.
It's no problem. I know how it feels to just want to stay at home, not wanting to do anything. My girlfriend dumped me last summer. I stayed at home for weeks, watching Dirty Dancing and eating ramen noodles. Sometimes it helps when I talk about it.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm not really a talker.
I get it.
Life for me, it hasn't been easy. My whole world came crumbling down. My father was paralyzed.
just like you. Life was never easy. My old man, he heard our song. He burned cigarettes in my hand, told me to suck it up and be a man. Because of him I wear a mask to keep all my pain in the past. I want glory and fame, a household name. I want a partner in crime, someone who is mine. I want to conquer the world with that special girl. And if she were ever to fall, I would be the one to help her through it all. Never told anyone that before.
Me neither.
I wanna live life like I'm supposed to. When the rubble falls on me, I'll push through and finally be happy. I took a chance on tonight, never thought that I might be standing here with this you, with someone like you. So let's dream in the stars and show all of our scars. And if you were ever to fall, I could be the one to help you through it all. Catch you if you fall.
I hope you enjoyed that video. If you have any questions about how we created this little clip, or if you want access to the full show, please reach out, comment on the Godot platform, and let me know. I'm glad to provide any additional materials that you need to get your show going. That leads us to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Hopefully someday I'll get to meet you in person. In the meantime, join us on the Godot Fine Arts PLC and invite your teacher friends. If you want to connect, chat more about the ideas or resources I shared today, feel free to email me at liliangina.quino@apsk12.org. Have a wonderful day. Bye.